Hey everybody, it's Matthew. Welcome back to another video. Today I thought we'd take a look at the 2023 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominee list today. We're going to check out the nominees, talk a little bit about it, and see what this means for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year and the future. All right, so coming in here, we got a Tribe Called Quest first, which is interesting inclusion, a hip hop act there, but of course incorporating elements of jazz and alternative and things like that, making themselves a very unique space in hip hop, with their unique blend of genres and ideas in music, often writing about the plights of the African American community, but often in a little bit different way, maybe a more cerebral, avant garde type of style. It's certainly an interesting act, and I think if you're going to put hip hop acts in, they're probably one to go in, but we can talk more about genre based things later. Anyway, Kate Bush, I think, is an interesting one. She's a very unique female singer in the kind of rock space. I mean, genre wise, she was kind of dipping into a lot of different things, trying a lot of different ideas with this theatric, big, and style and things like that. Very emotional and other things. She was a pretty influential artist throughout her time. One of those you don't think about, but her influence is just kind of just underneath there, underneath a lot of other modern artists and things like that. Certainly a significant act. One that some people didn't think was particularly relevant until, her song was in, what was it? Was it in Stranger Things, right? Yeah, that was what happened. And then she kind of had a big resurgence there. But going back to her beginning of her career and things like that, she was a pretty influential one. Definitely a good nod here, I think, to her. Sheryl Crow, what can you say? Really incredible voice, really incredible songwriter, incorporating mainly country, but also sounds of classic rock and other genres and things like that. Very powerful singer, like I said. She wrote for a lot of famous artists that you might have not have been aware of, and I think that's in itself probably enough to get her nominated besides what she did in her own career. So this is definitely a good nomination here. Sorry if I don't spend a lot of time on some of these. It's just because they're not artists that I necessarily follow particularly much. So a lot of these we're skipping over a little bit. When we get into some of the artists that are like top five in the voting currently, then we'll really start talking a little bit more. Missy Elliott, very significant nomination here. One of the best female rappers that there has been in an industry that is often dominated by men. She was kind of a breakthrough artist for the female rapper with a very unique style. She made some very good bars. Like this lady could spit, man. She is really great. I don't know if she's making a whole lot of music these days, but you know, she was very great in her time, very groundbreaking. And it was very odd. She liked to do things her own way, very different from your typical hip hop and rap tropes. And I think a good nomination, if you're going to put a hip hop artist in, that's a good one to go in. Of course, Iron Maiden, here we go. Currently fifth place in the voting. They're Iron Maiden, what can they say? Very important to British metal and a heavy metal pioneer, I guess. Not really so much that because they came a little bit later than, Judas Priest and Black Sabbath and the other main pioneers, but they were very significant in that, had a very great style, continued that dull guitar idea that Judas Priest kind of started and did it very well. They have some very iconic songs in the metal space that people really do like. Of course, The Trooper that's a big song. That thing is a massive hit for them. And Bruce Dickinson, obviously, fantastic singer, a really incredible range, has a very unique sound, and I think that's what has made the band so great throughout the years. And of course, you got Eddie, the mascot. I believe that's his name, right? Yeah. So this is a very good nomination. Should have come sooner, in my opinion, of course. to be as significant as they were to the development of metal as we know it today. But they're here, and that's very good to see. Joy Division and New Order, which are technically the same band. They were just, New Order was just the same band, renamed after their original singer and lyricist had passed away. Very sad. Of course, Joy Division had the big hit in 1980, Love Will Tear Us Apart. That influenced the industry and a lot of artists significantly. That was a big song for a lot of people. And they were very interesting, blending that style of gothic rock that other bands like Bauhaus would, of course, do, but they started, of course, blending in electronic sounds and other synthy things. They had some pop elements, I think, occasionally, which were pretty good. They were a significant band, though, because they made their own space in music, and that led to the creation of similar things down the road and influencing a lot of other artists. Very important band that should be included. So that's a good one there. Cyndi Lauper is currently second place. Of course, she's a very unique singer, had her own style, of course, with her debut album being called She's So Unusual. Had some very big hits in her time. It's very cool. I don't know if I'd call her a rock artist. So this is where we come to the genre thing. She always felt she was more in the pop space, in her time. So I don't know if she should be included, but of course there's tons of artists that aren't in the rock genre that are in the Rock Hall of Fame. Should they be? And does that, take away from its legitimacy as the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I mean, a little bit. Yeah, and I've never agreed with so many varied genres being included in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But I mean, they do it just because artists are significant and their influence could have influenced other artists that would normally be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And, so it comes around like that. But I mean, again, genre is a subjective thing. And when you have a large body of people deciding on the nominees, things are going to get a little bit weird sometimes with that. Even if I don't fully agree with some of these, like this one, and then the hip hop artists, which is fine, but it's just, is that really the Hall of Fame they should be going into? I don't know. But anyway, yeah, fine. Cyndi Lauper, important. Of course, George Michael, who is currently first place in the voting, is George Michael, of course. I mean, an incredible singer, really great songwriter. Wham was big for a little bit when they were around, and of course, Careless Whisper is one of the biggest songs of all time. Like, it's turned into a song to use on memes and things like that. So, like, your song is big when the internet is taking it by storm like that. So that's really important to note. Important figure, of course, in the homosexual community, coming out in the late 90s at a time when, sadly, AIDS was kind of going through the homosexual male community, very unfortunately, which of course, led to Freddie Mercury's death. And George Michael, I think, was lucky enough to be spared from that, but of course did pass away in 2016. But he's a very important artist that I think you definitely could justify being in here, even if he's not quite the correct genre. But there he is, Willie. There he is. He's fourth place right now. I mean, what can you say? It's Willie Nelson. There's not really a whole lot of discussion to be had here with him. You have to respect the man for his long career and his big songs and his just overall influence on music generally, not just, any one genre. This guy would touch pretty much everybody in the industry, and he's one of the greatest songwriters probably of all time. So, go ahead, put him up in there. He's not a rock artist, but we don't certainly have a huge problem with that. All right, Rage Against the Machine, and I do want them to be in there, of course. Really important band, blending hip hop, metal, R&B, and all those different kinds of punk, any kind of adjacent genre like that into one powerhouse is very significant. You know, they had a really unique, funky sound that I think was really important. Really big in creating new metal as a genre. So just in their role with that, they're already put them in. Had some really big hits in the '90s with songs like "Killing in the Name of" and "Bulls on Parade." You know those things. Great style. Tim Comerford is my favorite bassist, like ever. His bass tone is so nice. If I had to have a bass tone, ideally it would be his. That's what I would want. And then of course the rest of the band is great. Tom, very unique playing style with the guitar, like that. Brad giving you those solid backbeats, and of course Zach De La Roca. I'm not positive how you say his last name, but anyway, you know, Zach is an incredible lyricist, you know, incredible writer, incredible rapper, and I think that he is so criminally underrated in the rap community. It's really sad. This guy was really incredible at making bars. His flow is always great, and he can always change it up when he needs to for different songs. And fantastic, you know, put him in. And of course, the meat of it all, our boys, Soundgarden, are here in third place. Got a long way to go if they want to catch Cyndi Lauper, but we got until April 28th. So, you know, I'll talk more about voting in a little bit. Anyway, Soundgarden, what can I say? They are an important founding band in the creation of grunge as a genre, even though it's not really a genre, it's a media label, but it was a label created by the media. That's not the same thing as a genre, because really they're not a genre essentially, because it's like they blend metal and punk and pop, and you know, have some really interesting experimentation with even prog elements and things like that. These guys were pulling from everything you could possibly imagine, which of course happens when you have a bunch of people that like the Beatles and then also like weird stuff like Bauhaus, Bad Brains, Meat Puppets, you know, any kind of The Killing Joke, any kind of weird art band or noise band from, you know, before their time, they were also really into. So it's like this super weird blend that just fit really well. It was a weird idea. You would think the band would not work with that kind of weirdness, but of course they do it beautifully with Kim's incredible creativity on guitar. His what I think is great guitar tone, honestly, if you can actually hear it, because there was a tendency to mix him a little quietly on some albums, but he really did have a fantastic tone. Ben Shepherd being whatever kind of bassist you want him to be at any moment. Famous for saying he wanted to play his bass like it was fretless on Bad Motor Finger. And if you hear the bass tracks, yeah, he kind of did that. He does any job you need him to do, and that's what makes him so cool. And he's also really creative while he does it. Matt Cameron, the best in the business of making weird times sound like there's nothing weird at all about him. Fantastic drummer, always in time. And Chris is, you know, the legend himself, one of the greatest rock singers there has ever been. One of the best songwriters there's ever been. He's wrote a lot of material on his own, a lot of varied material, of course, and even in Soundgarden being incredibly varied within their own, you know, space as a band. And they're of course a band that should be in there. They don't have the raw numbers that Pearl Jam does. They don't have the obvious influence that Nirvana does. They're one of those quiet bands underpinning everything, and I think they influenced a lot more people than anyone really realizes. And I really do hope they will get in this year. If they can stay up in the voting like they are, they have a good shot this time. So let's see what happens. The Spinners, you know, classic R&B and soul outfit, very fantastic. I do quite enjoy their music with that whole Motown Detroit thing, you know, doing R&B and pop stuff, very good. Had the Rubber Band Man, that was a big song, very good. Should they be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I don't know, but they probably influenced a lot of rock artists, so that's why they're going to be there. The White Stripes, have they done enough to be in here besides made Seven Nation Army? I don't know. They're a very interesting duo, of course, doing very stripped down rock music with some blues and pop influence, you know, because Jack White's background and things that he plays very interesting. Very interesting with him making track. Seven Nation Army doesn't have a bass on it, so that's weird. Super stripped down, super interesting. I don't know if that's really influenced a lot of new people in the younger generation or not. This one is a tough one for me to get behind, just because I don't think everything you need is there to quite put him in here. And then Warren Zevon is an interesting thing. He wasn't particularly big. He wasn't very popular. Didn't have any big. He had one big. Werewolves of London got some decent notoriety, but he'd like to do his weird things with being poetic with songs, being having this very dry, weird, dark humor type of thing. Very witty guy. Very interesting performer and songwriter. I don't know if he has he influenced a lot of people from that style. I don't know, although there have been other artists with a kind of similar idea to them that I think may have been influenced by him. Is it obvious enough that he should be nominated here? I'm not sure. He's currently sixth place in the voting, but you know, um, we'll see what happens. Anyway, yeah, you can vote every day, guys, with an email. Go on vote.rockhall.com, vote for Ben, vote Soundgarden if you can. Really appreciate it. And with that, after a little talk here, that's going to be it. Like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed that. And don't forget to click the bell to get a notification when a new video is out. And I'll see you guys next time for another video. Have a good one.